I want to make a few comments about an article I read in Arena magazine. It's a new magazine I came across, really good magazine. It's about the CEO of Anduril Technologies. Anduril is a company that we've been following for a while because it has some interesting aspects. One, it's using real world AI, and second, it's a manufacturing company that is using new types of manufacturing. And the purpose of this episode is to one is to discuss the article a little bit, in particular as far as culture is concerned, because it really impacts our decision making as a fund. And then second, maybe make a few comments about what we mean when we talk about a new wave of manufacturing, which is tied to President Trump's endeavors in bringing back manufacturing to the US. And in fact, it's not a bringing back. It's actually a renaissance of manufacturing. So we're not bringing back $2 jobs from Vietnam. That's not the idea. That is not good for us, not good for them. That's not good for anybody. But what we're doing is we're creating a new wave of manufacturing companies that have a couple of ingredients speaking for them that in our opinion is going to define the future of the next quarter century of the economy, of jobs, and also of wealth creation. This is an Not Even Wrong podcast. It's May 1st, 2025. This is Krim Delco. For the year, we are down 32.6%. The market's down 5%. We're underperforming by 27.6%. So this is a multifaceted episode, but I just want to tie it together. On the one hand, we're discussing an article that was published in Arena magazine about the CEO of Anduril. And like I said in the prelude, it's an interesting company per se, but I just want to now focus on a couple of things that the article mentioned, and then tie to this new wave of manufacturing that we call the renaissance of US manufacturing, and what the role of, particularly the role of Nvidia and the role of AI that is going to be crucial in this renaissance. So first, let's talk about the article. So it's Brian Schimpf, the CEO of Anduril, who is, in my opinion, one of those types that could potentially be the successor of people like Elon Musk. So we have a lineage of entrepreneurs in the US that have created enormous amounts of wealth. I want to start with maybe Thomas Edison and Henry Ford, Walt Disney, and then Hewlett and Packard, and Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Bezos, Musk, and now this new wave, Palmer Luckey, Brian Schimpf. Others, of course, I might, maybe not have mentioned people that I should be mentioning, but the point is there's a certain lineage, and there's a lot of things that these people have in common. There's some things that is unique about them, and the uniqueness is usually because of the times. But what is definitely what they have in common is culture. So culture is very strong. It's an ownership culture, and the article actually in Arena magazine, which is a very good magazine, mentions the roots of Brian's upbringing in Rochester, New York, in a culture of Eastman Kodak, dominated by Eastman Kodak, the company, and the ethos of Kodak, the company, and its founder, of engineering excellence, of ownership of product, of can-do attitude. Maybe to mention Peter Thiel's 0 to 1 here when he talks about the optimism and the hope, like these two combinations, which are very strong which are necessary for production, for growth, for dominance, for a better future, and also are existing in these companies. So culture. There's a quote in the article which talks something along the lines of like, if Eastman Kodak as a company was going down, of course, because it missed the new wave of photography and And then they had a small renaissance or revival during COVID when the government was pouring money into any kind of company that was spreading out their hands. And Kodak tried to do it, but then collapsed. And then there's a quote which says that no amount of government money can undo a can unbreak a broken culture. And that's very important, because if you don't have the right culture, capital and government subsidies or subsidies by investors or whatever, or even customers, they don't help. Like, the culture is what is necessary, and that's just as a tangent. One of my big critiques at this industrialization of venture capital that we're seeing in Silicon Valley. You can't industrialize venture capital. Entrepreneurial success and economic growth are not functions of capital and volume. Otherwise, China and India would be the richest countries in the world, and they're not. And the reason they're not is because, again, no amount of government money or people can unbreak a broken culture. So what you need is culture first, and then you need capital, and you need luck, and you need all of these things. But you need culture first, and the culture is really what Peter Thiel explains in 0 to 1, which is part of our principle stack, and clearly the most important business book written, and in my opinion also the most important book about entrepreneurship and venture capital, maybe tied with The Innovator's Dilemma. So what do I mean with culture? It's really nicely explained in the article, and I think that's something that we really appreciate about Arena magazine, is that they go deep. They actually explain in a very narrative, interesting way. They talk about culture and personalities and the people. So this is a people's magazine that talks about business, that talks about technology, and I think that's very important. So read the article. It's in the show notes. What I want to say here is really the focus on ownership. Ownership in a really deep way. So this goes back to the actual Renaissance in the 15th century or 1500s in Florence, when people actually took ownership of their destiny, the human focus of life away from the divine, and the beauty, which is just another way to take ownership of nature. There's this quote, if God communicates through beauty, and technology is how we respond. We see beauty because we have will. We have a way to describe what is and what isn't. And to use David Deutsch's analogy, there's the paper bin of the composer. There's objective beauty, and that beauty is owned by the person. So sorry for the tangent, but what I think is most prevalent in the culture of Anduril, as described in the Arena magazine article, it's this ownership of product. And that means ownership of the technology of the product, ownership of the idea, of the engineer who sits down and thinks about something and then comes up with something, delivers it, and takes ownership of it. This is, it might sound obvious, like, duh, what else is it? But this is really crucial. Think about it. If you don't have that, if you live in a culture, let's say, I believe Google's culture is very much like that, which is aloof, or there's a duck syndrome here that, nothing is really worth paying full attention to because you're too good for things. There's a certain, veil of elitism and arrogance that goes along, also prevalent in cultures like McKinsey or Goldman, like those types of companies that really do nothing and, suck society of its resources, and on top of that also treat people with arrogance and just are not nice. So that is the opposite. So Anduril is not like that. It's not that kind of company, and I think culture is really, really important. And now let's talk about manufacturing. What does that actually mean? And I want to use this as a tangent for Jensen Huang and Nvidia, and what he said yesterday in the White House when he was invited by President Trump. Nvidia has a platform called Omniverse. Now, this is a technology platform, and Nvidia is a company that does a lot of things, builds GPUs and has a software which ties the GPUs to the application space, we call CUDA. Omniverse is sort of the next generation of CUDA. It's a software platform that allows for 3D representation and simulation of the real world. That's really what Omniverse is in a nutshell. So it's a platform. It has a data structure. It's built on a data structure, on a common data structure. So that's important because it allows for composability. It allows for collaboration, and the goal is to simulate the real world. Now, I don't want to go into details. You can look it up. You can grok it. You can GPT it, whatever you're using. That's not the purpose of this episode. The purpose of this episode is to point out what this could mean for the next, let's say, 2 decades. Trump is staging a renaissance of US manufacturing, and it's very important to emphasize that it's a renaissance, not a taking back. Now, he might use that word for political purposes, where bring back jobs, things like that. But what he's really doing is not bringing back anything. He's reviving an art that has been lost to this country for a while, and that is how to produce things. And he's doing that in a new way. And Nvidia is going to be the leader in this because they're building the infrastructure, the actual technology infrastructure for this, and that is Omniverse. Now, this ties very well into companies like Anduril and SpaceX and Tesla and others. There's many others also. And that is that first we have a software-defined product. So every product is software-defined. This is akin to the Software It's the World theme by Mark Andreessen. So every product is software-defined. The software actually defines also the manufacturing of the product, or the design of the product. So the car, the robo-taxi is defined by its software, and then has to follow certain design rules and engineering rules to be fit for its purpose, which is, of course, to be an autonomous robot on wheels. Every manufacturing process starts with the software and then embodies the manufacturing in the real world as a factory, and then, of course, produces the products. Or to say it another way, the machine that builds the machine. But the machine itself is defined by software. So we're starting with software. Everything is digital. There is no such thing anymore as, well, AI for manufacturing or AI for engineering. All of the disciplines are AI. They're going to be, they're just extended applications of AI. AI is the process. And what AI actually means, it's accelerated iteration. That's what it really means. So that's what intelligence is. Intelligence is accelerated iteration. We can do more with less cost. We can try more. We can fail faster. We can, in virtual worlds, almost fail for free and create models of the real world and then translate them into, from the model into the real world once we have high confidence that whatever we're developing is good enough. Jensen gave a speech about 1.5 years ago at a biotech conference where he spoke about drug development, and he compared drug development with chip design. And he said, chip design used to be, you make your hands dirty in the lab. And now you do everything in virtual world, and then you just do the tape out once you have high confidence that your virtual design is very good. This is how everything will be manufactured in the future. And this is the kind of renaissance that we're talking about. And this is what's so exciting for us as investors to take part in this really interesting new development that is going to create new jobs. It's going to also create new winners and losers, of course, on the military front and on the economic front. It's not a zero-sum game by no means. That means that we and China and everybody else can participate in this. This is not a zero-sum game because you can do a lot more with this. So if you have a manufacturing process that is geared towards high iteration and scale manufacturing, both, which, by the way, this is the beauty. If you solve the iteration problem, so if you can, in virtual world, design a manufacturing process, for example, you want to build millions of cybercaps and you want to do it fast and at scale. Well, if you can build a digital twin of the factory and maybe also have a digital twin or a realistic version of the cybercap driving around in a virtual world, you can eke out a lot of problems and edge cases and then manufacture the product already anticipating and actually going through a lot of problems that could happen in the real world and act them out, fix them and bring in more efficiency, safety, all of these things, and then produce the car at scale in a much more rapid form. What this means is also, of course, lower cost per mile. We've spoken about this. And it also means a lot of interesting new jobs, interesting new design, vectors and all kinds of things that it's even hard to predict what all these things will mean. When CUDA was started in the mid-2000s, you couldn't have predicted ChatGPT and Grok and self-driving cars. So we don't want to anticipate too much now. But what we can be sure about is that we're going to have we're going to have a manufacturing renaissance. That we're going to have. There is still a lot of execution to be done here. So this is not a foregone conclusion. And we also have geopolitical risks. So these things could be derailed. But it's almost certain that they will happen. They will happen. And they will happen because we have the technology and we have the necessity and we have the ingenuity. And what else do we need? Maybe will, risk-taking, all these things are given, so we have it. So to summarize, I think this new renaissance of manufacturing in the US, which is driven by PhDs who can win a bar fight, which is really what every portfolio company that we have, we want to have or we ideally have, is full of PhDs that can win a bar fight. That's the culture. It is feisty, gritty, intellectual. It is not shortcuts. It is not about impressions and posturing. It is about ownership. It is about accountability. It is about ambition, hard work. And it is also about using technology in every inch you can in order to iterate faster, in order to come up with better solutions for real-world problems in the virtual world, and then find the sim-to-real transfer, and then actually produce those products. That's the renaissance of manufacturing. Thank you.